Hello, my name is Sister Valerie Sweeney. I'm a sister of Notre Dame from Chardon, Ohio, which is near Cleveland. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today about our mission work, thanks to the Society for the Propagation of the Faith, who arranges these talks. You're probably already aware of that organization and the wonderful work they do to spread the gospel around the world. Today, I'd like to make you aware of our own missionary sisters of Notre Dame and the tremendous work they do in witnessing to God's goodness and care in our global missions. For 14 years, I was the director of Notre Dame Global Missions. So I worked very closely with our missionary sisters in support of their awesome ministries. I was blessed to visit our missions in India 6 times and in Africa twice. So I really can speak from personal experience about the amazing things they're doing and the great need there is for your prayers and support. I really wish I could be with you in person today, but the marvels of technology make it possible for me to share our message remotely. The Sisters of Notre Dame are an international congregation serving in 16 countries on 5 continents. In 1949, 6 of our American Sisters of Notre Dame from Cleveland, Ohio, began a mission in India. And now there are about 400 Indian sisters in more than 50 locations throughout the country. Their ministry includes all levels of education, spirituality, healthcare, social work, and advocacy for the rights of women and children. In 1961, Sisters of Notre Dame from Toledo, Ohio, began a mission in Papua New Guinea, focused on secondary education for girls, social outreach services for adults, education and respite care for those affected by AIDS, and a formation house for women who are considering religious life. In 1992, Sisters of Notre Dame from India followed the Holy Father's call for missionaries to go to Africa, and they began their own mission in Tanzania. Then in 1995, American Sisters of Notre Dame from Kentucky and California began a mission in Uganda in Africa. In 2015, the Indian, African, and American Sisters of Notre Dame in Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda joined together to become the East Africa delegation. In this delegation, there are now more than 50 African Sisters of Notre Dame. Half of them are currently working towards their college degree to prepare them for ministry among their own people. So that really gives us much hope for the future in Africa, where the Catholic Church is so vibrant and growing. Pope Francis really reminds us that all of us are called by baptism to be missionary disciples, which simply means being Jesus for others wherever we are. But some, like our sisters who are missionaries in foreign lands, are called in a very particular way to carry out Jesus' command from Mark's Gospel. Go out to all the world and tell the good news. Our Notre Dame missionaries accompany people in poverty. Like Jesus, they reach out to those who are most in need, those who really live on the margins of society. Our sisters themselves live simple lives among the people, helping them in any way they can. For instance, our Indian sister Sudha is a lawyer, and for 20 years she lived in a mud hut among the Musahar people, who are the lowest caste people in India. Sister Sudha helps the Musahar claim their rights and stand up against injustices. She's helped more than 2,000 young women graduate from high school or skill training centers, and she coordinates more than 1,000 self-help groups for women. Our Notre Dame missionaries accompany people disadvantaged by illiteracy. In Tanzania and Africa, Sister Rashmi began a school for Maasai tribal children who had never been to school before. What Maasai parents want most for their children is education. So at first, Sister gathered the children under a tree to teach them. And gradually, with the help of generous donors like you, was able to build an ever-expanding school where young African Sisters of Notre Dame now teach. American school children have raised money for a school playground to be built in the barren land surrounding that school. Our Notre Dame missionaries also accompany people ravaged by disease. When Sister Mukti, who is a nurse, went to minister in Africa, she learned that there were almost 2 million orphans in Tanzania alone due to the ravages of AIDS. In the spirit of the foundress of our congregation, who was an orphan herself, Sister Mukti began to gather these orphans, several of whom were HIV positive. With the help of compassionate donors, Sister Mukti has been able to build several home-like cottages where orphans experience the love of a house mother. Some of our American schools and donors are sponsoring these girls to pay for their housing, education, and personal expenses. Our young African Sisters of Notre Dame are teaching the boarders and other children in a nearby Notre Dame school. So the question for us today is, what can we do to support the wonderful work of these missionaries? I always think that the first step is just to be aware of the situation. It's easy for all of us to get caught up in our own lives and the challenges we're facing and forget that most of the world doesn't have the advantages that we do. I don't say that to make us feel guilty, but rather just to call forth gratitude for all the blessings that we have. The second thing we can do is to pray. Each of us really can be a missionary through our prayers. In this age of war and terrorism, climate change, and the COVID pandemic, I really find it helpful to pray the news. As I read the news stories or watch them unfold on TV, I lift the people up to God in prayer and ask God to support them. It's also good to know that our missionaries are praying for us. Our sisters in the missionary countries know that I am speaking on their behalf, so they're praying for us and they'll continue to do that. We really can count on each other and our mutual support in prayer and concern. And the third thing we can do is share. Even a modest gift in our estimation can make a big difference. For instance, $10 can provide a month's worth of rice for a family in India. $150 a year can educate a child in Papua New Guinea. And $1 a day can provide housing, food, clothing, tuition, and school supplies for one of the orphans cared for by our sisters in Africa. So a gift of $30 could care for an orphan for a month. It really is true. God will bless just about 100-fold whatever gift you can give. So I'd ask you to please look into your heart and see what you can share. And please be as generous as you can in your collection. In the name of our missionary sisters and the thousands of people they serve each day, I thank you in advance for your generous support. And with them, I ask God to bless you and your families with his loving care and bless your missionary hearts. Thank you.